employees don't leave their jobs, they leave managers. If they're not feeling like they're a part of something, they're not feeling appreciated, they're going to go do their job somewhere else.
HR has become far more, if I may put it this way, far more technology friendly than it used to be in the last, 3-4 decades.
As managers, we need to remember that employees have lives outside of work, and enabling them to a more flexible schedule conveys trust and understanding.
Whatever I know of you, Katie, I know that you call yourself a problem solver in the HR work that you do on a regular basis.
I've often been told that I should write a book because I feel like I've heard it all. But that's what keeps me in HR, is because people fascinate me. And, it's really just about learning. Anybody can do a job, but it's as if you enjoy it.
You have to be heard. You got to help them, and you might as well give them a hug to make sure that, the relationship is intact, Thank you so much, everybody, for listening in. Welcome back to Hyreo Rise series of podcasts and webinars, where we kind of talk to HR experts across the world. And in today's conversation, we're going to talk about something very interesting. We're going to talk about, how do we sort of build talent relationships? And in today's context, how does the whole hyper-personalization and outcome driven, policies and processes that organizations across the world are taking. And with me, I've got a very, very interesting guest. A pleasure to welcome Katie Mills. She comes with around 2 decades of experience in HR, spanning, people relationship, performance management, OKRs. She's dabbled as an advisor to senior executives, an expert in HRIS technologies. A pleasure to have you, Katie, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited about this discussion.
Awesome, lovely. Thank you so much. Now, as we start off this conversation, right, and as we're talking about talent relationships, now, one of the key things that I've seen in my little experience has been a lot of employee focus on how do we run performance management, how do we run feedback mechanisms? What are those coaching opportunities that come? So let me start with that and take your views on how things have evolved in the last, let's say, 2 decades or so, especially, with all this hybrid work and all of that. What's your views on that, Katie? Let me start with that.
Are you speaking just directly with performance management, or what?
I'll pick performance management as a starting point on that, because many a times employees look at employment from that angle, and that's super critical if you really look at it from an employee standpoint, right?
Right. Well, as far as performance management, and it's interesting when you touched on the OKR strategies and human resources. We actually, with my company, we review our benefits and compensations on an annual basis, and we just made the decision to switch all of our carriers this year, as we found we found some richer benefits for our employees. With performance management, we implemented a new management system where the process has been tailored to the role and department, so that specific goals and expectations can be lined out for that employee instead of having a standard form that encompasses all employees. This way, we felt it better clarified career pathing and expectations.
Brilliant. And since you moved and you made that shift into OKRs from the traditional approach, right? Do you want to share some best practices or some things that you learned when you made that shift as an organization into OKRs?
Sure. One of the OKRs that we just established recently, we established a monthly lunch at our headquarters where we have lunch catered, or we go out to some place just to catch up with one another. I always go back to employees just want to be heard. They want to feel a part of something. So I feel that improves the communication among coworkers, just so that we can collaborate better. But again, with our review of our benefits and compensation, that made a huge difference. It was quite an ordeal because we switched not only medical, but we switched vision, dental, life insurance. 401k. So we're still ironing out the wrinkles, but it's definitely well worth it because it was much appreciated amongst our employees. So I feel like, with benefits not getting any less expensive, each year, it's important to kind of survey your workforce and get a feel for what's more important to them. What type of benefits would serve your demographic better?
And do you see that as already showing results in the way employees are looking at the way that the transformation, or do you think it's going to take a bit more time, the transformation to really set in and the employees feeling a taste of it?
Again, we try to survey our employees pretty frequently as far as just getting feedback, because what we may think, as C-suite executives, what we may think that our employees would appreciate might not be the case. A lot of people aren't so concerned with 401k as they are with tuition reimbursement, care for secondary caregivers, paid leave, paid paternal leave. So it's something that we're trying to, kind of keep our finger on the pulse with our workforce, just to see, what priorities shift.
No, absolutely. I think what you said is super important, right? On one side, the C-suite has a different view of, the employees, and how do you keep that relationship really warm, and how do you keep that process going? But the talent view, or how they view at some of these things, are kind of interesting to note. And I think there's been a sea change with the way the work has really evolved for a lot of roles. And that's something that we're also noticing as we kind of talk to a lot of HR leaders in terms of what's the employee perspective of things, and how do they measure it, and how do they kind of use that as a yardstick to kind of keep improving yourself as an organization, right? And on that specific area, one of the things that gets often discussed is about work-life balance. Especially, we all know that we've gone through some tough years recently. There's been a lot of shift in the way, people are kind of looking at work. What's your perspective on work-life balance, really? And any interesting stories or things that you would like to share in terms of how organizations have taken a path in terms of improving that, or the sort of the basic DNA has changed around that, the whole work-life balance and how people look at it?
I think, a work-life balance, I think that is one of the few things that came out of COVID. One of the few good things that came out of COVID is the ever popular remote work option and flex schedule. As managers, we need to remember that employees have lives outside of work, and enabling them to a more flexible schedule conveys trust and understanding. And I'll also go back to the frequent check-ins that I feel need to happen, as these will act as sort of a temperature check. How are your employees doing? Maybe something is going on in their home life that they're not going to be able to come into the office more often, or maybe their priorities have changed and they'd like to be considered for a new role. So I think it's important just to have some people, depending on the employer, they feel just an annual check-in, an annual review is fine. I would like to do, and I know this isn't always feasible, but I think, check-ins every 45 to 60 days are great, just because a lot can happen in that time, depending on what projects are going on or what's going on in that employee's life. So I feel, flex scheduling and just check-ins can just mean a world of difference, both for the manager and for the employee.
No, I can't agree more. I think, what you just now said, that shift from annual to something like, 45 days, 30 days, 60 days. I think this is something that we are seeing echoing in different places that we've had the opportunity to kind of interact with leaders on. And I think that's going to continue. People are going to look at work, obviously, from the lens of how much of flexibility does that bring. Maybe a related question, do you see this also for the talent acquisition side? For example, you've got flexibility, you've got, remote, you've got hybrid. Is that coming across as something that external talent is also looking at when they're evaluating jobs today?
That's, you bring up a good point. It really needs to be tailored to the role of which you're hiring, just because, if you're further along in your career path, you might not be as interested in tuition reimbursement. You might want, a higher 401k match, or, more PTO. So I think depending on the demographic of the company, the benefits really need to be weighed out. I used to work for a company that had a much younger workforce when I was out in Phoenix, and their primary wants and desires were, of course, more PTO, but they wanted tuition reimbursement. They were having student loans that they had to pay back. Whereas the company that I work for now, it's an older workforce, so that's not really a priority. They're wanting, more PTO, profit sharing, things like that. So I think it's crucial to base your benefits, on your demographic, and really, keep your finger on the pulse of what that demographic's priorities are.
Absolutely. I think two key takeaways from me, Katie, from what you said. The first thing is the demographics of the workforce itself define, what's the priority. Mm-hmm. Number two is the organizational flexibility to kind of incorporate some of those demands, some of those interests into the way they're kind of, managing talent, expectations. This kind of opens it up on diversity, kind of opens it up on the kind of workforce and the kind of complexity that it brings in, right? Mm-hmm. And of late, and I think the last 2 years, we've been hearing a lot about artificial intelligence and especially AI in workforce and work tech, right? It's impacting. I mean, we've already seen a lot of use cases where HR has become far more, if I may put it this way, far more technology friendly than it used to be in the last, 3-4 decades, right? Mm-hmm. Moving away from traditional legacy systems, HRMS, HRIS systems, into far more, advanced, adaptive, and sort of outcome-oriented solutions and systems that we've seen. What's your take? What's your views on how AI is transforming some of these, processes? How AI is sort of giving shape to some of those older practices being replaced. So, what's your views on that, Katie?
With AI, you can analyze how employees are feeling through surveys, chat, and messaging interactions, and other types of feedback to identify areas for improvement, I should say. Specifically during and after onboarding, you can use AI to check in on trainees and gather insights on the training process, their interactions with coworkers, and their sentiments about the overall experience. Additionally, AI service chatbots can deflect tickets by addressing basic queries and eliminating repetitive tasks, freeing up support desk employees to handle issues where they can use their expertise. And this empowers agents to become expert problem solvers, so they can focus on the most high-value tasks.
Yeah, I like the word and the usage problem solving there, because I think, and I've whatever I know of you, Katie, I know that you call yourself a problem solver in the HR work that you do on a regular basis. And I think some of the things, at least that we can relate to on a day-to-day basis, are getting automated today. Mm-hmm. You took the example of tickets and what some of the folks who we have in the organization or outside who are going through talent acquisition or in the pipeline today are essentially experiencing that big time today. Recruiters are being freed up. Talent experts, internal HR folks are getting freed up of that, routine work, and they are far more equipped with data to kind of have meaningful intervention. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a positive change that we're seeing as an outcome of some of these smarter technologies coming.
Absolutely. I think AI will be a tremendous help with creating policies and procedures, and also with the customer service chatbots. They'll be able to answer a lot of frequently asked questions with onboarding. So that'll be another huge help.
Right. In fact, as a technology company, and we've seen that happen in enterprises and mid-tier companies a lot, where we've got customers who literally use bots and automation layers to kind of fulfill candidate or employee request in almost 1/10 of the time today. You move from 10 days to solve a problem to 24 hours to solve a problem, which I think is a dramatic shift from where it used to be earlier to today. But of course, it has its own challenges as well, like any other technology platform that you can think about. The expectation also goes up. People who are subscribers to such platforms or users of such systems are also expected to get more and more smarter. More and more, the personalization angle has to be more and more a part of the technology, and that's something that we're seeing a lot in the adoption cycle as we see it from the other side of the world, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right, but I think the advantage there is organizations of all sizes and all verticals or industries have opened it up, and I think that's a positive thing that we should all be taking from that. Right?
I agree.
All right. Now, before we kind of wrap for the day, it was really great to kind of hear some of the commonly thought about concepts being revalidated today. Would love to hear some stories that you might have from your experience around the whole talent experience space, be it around the performance management side of it, employee relationship side of it, that you feel are worth lessons for a lot of the audience as well. If you would want to share a couple of them.
Sure. I get people coming to me and saying, I don't understand how you do what you do. I couldn't have those difficult conversations. I couldn't, terminate people. But I always say it's people fascinate me. There's a lot more good than bad. Employees just want to feel heard. They want to feel a part of something. And so I feel that it's crucial to really speak with your employee. Communication is crucial in any relationship. But I think that employees, they just want to feel heard. They want to feel part of something. And, I have this saying that says, do you want to be heard, helped, or hugged? Because everybody's different, and you need to be in touch with your employee, because employees don't leave their jobs, they leave managers. If they're not feeling like they're a part of something, they're not feeling appreciated, they're going to go do their job somewhere else. So I've often been told that I should write a book because I feel like I've heard it all. But that's what keeps me in HR, is because people fascinate me. And, it's really just about learning. Anybody can do a job, but it's as if you enjoy it. It's if you feel like you're a part of something and if you feel appreciated. So I think that's crucial. And I think, none of us are experts on anything. So finding a team that you can really collaborate with, that's where, you can truly find happiness and satisfaction in your job.
Fantastic, Katie. I think you touched on, again, 2 points, if I was to say that again. One is, heard, helped, or hugged. I think that's something that I'll carry for myself as part of an organization, as a leader in an organization, something that I think is very simple, but it's very complicated to kind of practice on a day-to-day basis. And knowing you, Katie, I think the way you approach solving some of these things also matter. I think, and in some places you might need a combination of all the three. You have to be heard, you got to help them, and you might as well give them a hug to make sure that, the relationship is intact, exactly the way you kind of looked at it, right? I know we in the interest of time, we kind of call it wraps for this episode, but thank you so much, Katie, for being online today and speaking to us. It was fascinating. I've noted some of these points, and I'm pretty sure our audience would also love and having this, this motto of talent relationship going for their organizations as well. Thank you so much, Katie, for sparing your time.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. I'd love to do it again another time.
Thank you so much, Katie. We would love to have you as well, in many more occasions like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.